Okay, so we had covered a few hadiths, so let's quickly, inshallah, بعد أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, just review what we talked about. We started with the ayat in the Quran of Ramadan in Surah Al-Baqarah. Then we talked about how the reward for fasting is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is unlimited. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not define the reward for fasting. It's unlimited. Then we spoke about that the reason why the reward for fasting is unlimited is because the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, us, we are giving up the things we actually need to live for the sake of Allah, like food and drink and our desires. So these are the things we actually need to live. Other things we do extra, but these are the things that we're sacrificing for what we need to live. So this is why the reward is unlimited. Then we spoke about, I'm sorry, you have to excuse me, I have a little bit of a hoarse throat, as you can tell. And that the reward for fasting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's there is no limit to it. It is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Same kind of theme is going on. And we spoke about then the last hadith we covered was hadith, I believe this was the hadith where we spoke about the gate of Jannah. It's called al-Rayyan. That is specially designed for those who fast, and only those who fast will enter through that gate. And what does al-Rayyan mean? Those who remember from our last week?
What is the question?
Yes, the thirst quencher, the one who gives water. Rayyan. Okay, that's what it means. And then I think this was the last hadith that we covered, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever fasts one day for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates a great distance between him and the hellfire. Allahumma ja'alna minhum, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from among them. Ameen. Okay. I think this is also we covered, but we'll go ahead and start with this, inshallah. This is narrated by Abu Hurairah, where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Man sama Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." This is the main hadith on Ramadan. It has two versions, and with two different meanings, but the same outcome. Two versions, two different meanings, but the same result. Okay? So this is called the hadith of Ramadan. Everybody talks about this hadith. Now, hopefully you are able to visualize it. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man sama Ramadan," whoever fasts Ramadan, meaning the whole month of Ramadan, imanan, with iman, meaning believing in Allah and believing in the fact that you will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. There will be a day of judgment and you'll meet Allah. Wa ihtisaban. So because you believe that you will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know you are fasting for the sake of Allah so that He rewards you. You are expecting a reward on the day of judgment for the fast. So if you do it this way, which everybody does, inshallah, all of us, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, غُفِرَ لَهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِهِ. All his previous sins are wiped out. Okay? All his previous sins are wiped out. There could be a difference of opinion whether the major sins as well as the minor sins are forgiven or only the minor sins. Allah knows best. Major sins, as we have covered in the beginning of the Riyad al-Salihin chapter on Tawbah, on Tawbah and on sincerity, you have to specifically ask for Tawbah. Okay? But here, for example, every day if you fast, if you ask for Tawbah, you can make it that all your major as well as all your minor sins are forgiven. Okay, So that is version 1 here. I'm just going to share version 2. In a different wording, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man qama Ramadan." Whoever does qiyam all of Ramadan. What is who can tell me?
It's not.
No, I know. I'm telling you version 2. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's not written here. This is a qaf. Just imagine that's a qaf. What does qiyam in Ramadan mean? Who can tell me? Not you.
Stand up in Ramadan?
Okay.
Is that the same as qiyam? Same as qiyam?
Yeah, that's what I said. What is qiyam in Ramadan?
Oh, tarawih.
Yes. Okay. So whoever does Taraweeh throughout Ramadan, and inshallah we will do a deep study, inshallah, maybe next time, or the inshallah the week after that. I want to do a very, very detailed 1 hour long session on what is Taraweeh, what is Qiyam, and all of that, so that we all understand, inshallah, okay? But, so Rasulullah ﷺ said the same thing. Man qama Ramadan, whoever does Qiyam throughout Ramadan, meaning he did Taraweeh the whole Ramadan, believing that Allah will reward him, all his sins will be forgiven from before. Okay, now for the new hadith. And we all have heard this one, but now we are actually, inshallah, seeing this, that narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, where أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, إذا جاء رمضان, when Ramadan enters, فتحت أبواب الجنة, the doors of Jannah are swung open. وغلقت أبواب النار, and the doors of hellfire are closed. What does that mean? Literally, yes, it means that, but it means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is extending His mercy, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shutting means for His displeasure. وَصُفِّدَتْ الشَّيَاطِينَ, and all of the devils, shayateen, devils, are locked up, chained up. There's different wordings. How? So through Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, He is asking us and has commanded us to give up food, water, and our desires for His sake. And we need to control our tongue, and we need to control our anger, and so that we can develop consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and on an annual basis get trained on taqwa. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so that you can develop taqwa. It's the annual boot camp. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you develop the sense of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? These are the outcomes of Ramadan. So, but it is extremely difficult. For a lot of people, it's extremely difficult. When you're younger, it's easier. When you're older, it gets harder. So how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is helping you through Ramadan? And what are those means of help? You have forgiveness, obviously, that gives you encouragement, as we saw. It is one of the deeds that are rewarded in an unlimited manner, as we saw. Now, even spiritually, not only you're forgiven and you have unlimited reward, but now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is helping you throughout Ramadan by extending His mercy to you, by opening the doors of Jannah and closing His means for His displeasure by closing the doors of Jahannam. And on top of that, why do we commit sins? Because it is Shaitan who is whispering in our ear, الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ, right? Who is doing the waswas in the breasts of the people, in the chest, in our hearts. And then we listen to him and we commit the bad deeds. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is chaining up shayateen during the month of Ramadan to help us through the journey. And it is evident, right? During Ramadan, you see everybody's crowding up the masajid, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Everybody becomes the Ramadan Muslim. right? Everybody's praying 5 times a day. Everybody's doing all of the sunan and rawatib, the regular sunnahs. You know, we have a lot of Ramadan Muslim. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make everyone a Ramadan Muslim every single day of the year. Allahumma ameen. Everybody's trying to be patient. Everybody's trying to control their inner desires and their negative outbursts. Alhamdulillah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us by locking up the devils. Okay. So if you are thinking about this, you might say, hey, why do some people still commit sins? Right? Even Muslims. What about non-Muslims? What are they doing? So it's not clear. What's clear is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is definitely chaining up some shayateen. Is it all of them? There's a lot of different opinions, but this is how I want you to understand this, okay? First, you have to have, if you're going to drink water, you're going to need a vessel to pour the water in so you can drink it, right? Right, in a nice way. This is just maybe a silly example. That vessel is your iman. So you are putting taqwa in it, and then you're trying to drink from that taqwa. If there's no vessel, what are you going to put the taqwa into? What are you feeding? Nothing. So if you have no desire for Ramadan, you don't long for Ramadan, you don't believe in the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not going to get anything. You don't have a vessel to contain the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one. Right? Number two, we can't just blame the shaitan for our bad deeds. In Surah An-Nas, there's a reason I read that tonight. What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? الَّذِي يُوَسْوِسُ فِي صُدُورِ النَّاسِ. Who does the waswas in the sudur النَّاسِ? مِنَ الْجِنَّةِ وَالنَّاسِ. There are jinns. Jinnah means it's a plural of jinn. Okay? There's jinns, and not all jinns are bad, right? The bad jinns, they're called shayateen. The good jinn is a general term. Okay? But the other jinns that are not bad, they also may have negative traits, just like we do. Right? There's shayateen that are definitely bad. Maybe they're locked up. But now there's other jinns, they're not like super righteous, right? Just like human beings. Is everybody righteous? No. Other people are putting things in your head, aren't they? Do this, do that, and they're giving you bad advice and maybe encouraging you to do bad things. So they could be from the humans, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They could be from the jinns, and they could be from the humans. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah An-Nas. This is how this Quran ends, to remind us that it is not just the shayateen that are doing the waswas. Other people and other jinnat, they are putting us into trials. We ourselves, our own nufus, ourselves are misguiding us. And our own desires are pulling us down. أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Right? فَلَهُمْ أَجْرٌ غَيْرُ مَمْنُونَ. It is those that are trying to suppress their lower desires. Those are the ones that are being successful. But we are constantly being pulled by many, many different directions. Our lower desires are pulling us. Our other people with lower desires are pulling us in a negative direction. There's other jinnat. They may not be shayateen. They are pulling us in that direction. So we're constantly being tested. We put ourselves into situations of test. Maybe we don't have a bad niyyah. Maybe we don't have a bad niyyah, but sometimes we put ourselves into a situation where we will be surrounded by fitna. Right? And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. For example, these are some crude examples, but I just want to get the point across. For example, you go into a club and there's music blaring and people are drinking around you and they're doing bad things and inhibited things. For example, maybe you went there for a particular reason, maybe to meet somebody, maybe you had a good niyyah, you wanted to meet your boss, but you suddenly put yourself in that situation where now you're surrounded by a fitna, right? Or, there's so many things that we do. We put ourselves in fitna situations. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, and we need to not put ourselves in a situation of test and trials. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. But Allah will definitely test us. We know. لَا يَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will definitely, absolutely test you. So we will be put into trials, but we shouldn't put ourselves in trial. That's what I'm saying. Okay? But through Ramadan, we learn through this hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is helping us because we have the iman, because we're fasting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the door of Jannah, closes the gate of Jahannam, and traps the shayateen so that we have more chance to be successful in Ramadan. And alhamdulillah, we see that with our own eyes. We see that with our own eyes. Call it peer pressure, call it just encouragement. It's not peer pressure, wallahi. You talk to people during Ramadan, you can smell iman on them. You can smell iman in Ramadan. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us reach Ramadan and reward us through its blessings. Okay, next hadith. I'm going to skip this one. It's a similar hadith. The next one, yes, we can do this one really quickly. But inshallah, next week, I'm planning or doing a whole fiqh of Ramadan. The hows, the do's and don'ts of Ramadan, how you actually fast. We'll talk about moon sighting as well. We'll talk about all of what breaks your fast, how do you make up missed fasts, and those kinds of scenarios. We're going to, inshallah, spend a whole hour, maybe a little bit more, talking about the fiqh of Ramadan. Okay, the rules and the law of Ramadan. So, we will cover this then, but just since we're on this, let's go ahead and quickly read this. قال Abu al-Qasim. Who's Abu al-Qasim? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's his kunya. Okay? His oldest son that passed away very, very early on, his name was al-Qasim. So he was known as Abu al-Qasim. So, قال أبو القاسم صلى الله عليه وسلم صوموا لرؤيته. Fast when you see it, meaning the moon. وَأَفْطِرُوا لِرُؤْيَتِهِ. And fast and break your fast when you see it, meaning stop fasting when you see it. فَإِنْ غُبِّيَ عَلَيْكُمْ. But if it is hidden from you, meaning it's cloudy, you can't see the moon, غُبِّيَ عَلَيْكُمْ فَأَكْمِلُوا عِدَّةَ شَعْبَانَ 30. Then make sure, then you consider Sha'ban as for 30 days. Then you consider Sha'ban as not a 29-day month, or a 28-day month. You consider Sha'ban a 30-day month. And that's how you estimate. Okay? So when is it hidden? It's hidden in the beginning, at the start of Ramadan. If it's hidden from you, so you want to see, is it Ramadan started, you can't see the moon, then you assume Sha'ban is 30 days. Okay. We will get into, inshallah, that discussion a little bit. Moon sighting is a whole complex, very controversial discussion, but we're not going to talk about all of that, but I'm going to give you an easy rule of thumb. Inshallah, we will talk about that next time. Alright. Next. We'll skip this as well. And now, inshallah, for the next chapter. This chapter is on, yes, your behavior, the behavior of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam during Ramadan. So Ibn Abbas, if I can get a cup of water, I'd really appreciate that. كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود الناس. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam during Ramadan was the most generous, the most beautiful, but meaning the most generous of people in all ways. Charitable, giving, smiling. His character was at its prime. His worship was at its prime. Everything was enhanced about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as if it wasn't already. So imagine Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his character, and imagine enhancing that. It's mind blowing. It's just, you can't imagine what that would be like. So Ibn Abbas says, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أجود. الناس. He was the most generous of people. وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان. And he was most generous, especially in Ramadan. حين يلقاه جبريل. When Jibreel, during Ramadan, he used to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وَكَانَ يَلْقَاهُ فِي كُلِّ لَيْلَةٍ. And Jibreel alayhi salam used to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam every single night in Ramadan. فَيُدَارِسُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. And Jibreel alayhi salam used to review the Quran with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam every night of Ramadan. Right? شهر رمضان أنزل فيه القرآن. In the month of Ramadan is when Quran was recited. So Jibreel alayhi salam, there's many narrations about this. Here's just one that Imam al-Nawawi captures. So Jibreel alayhi salam used to come every night of Ramadan to review the Quran with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَيُدَارِسُهُ al-Quran. They used to study, yudaris, they used to study Quran together. As in, Jibreel alayhi salam is teaching him and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is learning. فَلَرَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم أَجْوَدُ بِالْخَيْرِ مِنَ الرِّيحِ الْمُرْسَلَةِ. Okay, so this goes back to the previous discussion that we said, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so generous, and we briefly talked about this last time, that this is Ibn Abbas describing his generosity during Ramadan, that he was like the sent wind. You know how when there's a wind that blows in the middle of the desert, you know, they're in the desert, right? Okay, when a wind is blowing in the middle of the desert, it's nice. How does it feel? Your sweat it's just a wonderful feeling. So Rasulullah, so Ibn Abbas is saying he was like Rihan Mursala. He was like the sent wind. Okay? Mursal, by the way, just FYI. Rasul, Rasala, Mursala, all of this means to send. To send. Okay? And in a similar meaning, angels are called angels, malaika, malak. It's alaka, malak, also someone who is sent for a purpose. So, risala means like something that is sent, a message that is sent. But alaka, yalaku, malak, angel, someone who is sent on a mission. Okay? For a purpose. Yes?
Could it be a human?
Yeah, you can, but you wouldn't use that term anymore. In the old Arabic, before Islam, you could use those terms. Now when you use those terms like that, they will carry a specific connotation, right? Because when you say malak, everybody think angel. They're not going to think someone who's sent for a purpose. Yeah, you know what I mean? Okay. Any questions on this? Did you enjoy this hadith? Isn't it beautiful? So Rasulullah was generous anyway of all people, and extra generous during Ramadan. And Jibreel alayhi salam used to come and teach him the Quran every single night. Alright, now let's look at this one. This is from Aisha radiallahu anha. She said, كان رسول الله إذا دخل العشر أحيا. Okay, so when the 10 entered, it says, I'm giving you literally, I'm not trying to spoon feed you information. I'm having you feel the words. When the 10 entered, what does that mean? The last 10 nights of Ramadan. That's what it means. Okay? When the 10 entered. So the way she's saying it, you can just imagine yourself. Everybody understood what that meant. When the 10 entered. Right? إِذَا دَخَلَ الْعَشْرُ أَحْيَا اللَّيْلِ. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make the night alive, as if it was daytime. Yeah, you can say, you have multiple ways to understand it. Make the night alive. Night is dead. Why is night dead? Obviously it's dark. Everybody's sleeping. Everybody's sleeping, right? And sleeping is the sister of death, right? Everybody's asleep. So when it says Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to wake up the night, what did it mean? He pretended it was not night. He was up worshipping. وَأَيْقَظَ أَهْلَهُ. And he used to wake up his family. He used to stay awake himself. And he used to wake up his family. وَجَدَّ وَشَدَّ مِئْزَرٍ. Okay? And he strove very much very hard to worship, meaning he did extra ibadah at night. So not just Taraweeh, okay? Taraweeh, that's a cheat code for us actually, by the way. Rasulullah didn't do Taraweeh the way we do Taraweeh. That's not, we'll talk about that inshallah in a week or two, okay? So we do a cheat code. We do a hack. Because, Umar radiallahu anh, he didn't want to make life too difficult for us weak human beings and weak Muslims. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us strength. Ameen. And then he used to tighten his belt. Meaning, remember last time we talked about it, it has two meanings. One meaning is, and Ibn Qudama in Minhaj al-Qasidin also explained, he used to tighten his belt, meaning, and actually we studied this hadith in Minhaj al-Qasidin. It says he got ready, meaning he was always ready to exert more energy. So he was prepared for every night. He was prepared to worship. Every night we're prepared to, do our iftar and then, eat as, fill our stomachs, and then we're like snoozing in Taraweeh, and then we go and we crash on the bed, right? And what did Rasulullah used to do? He used to look forward to break his fast so he can get a little bit of energy with the niyyah to actually exert all night in worship. Okay? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us those opportunities, those days of COVID. By the way, wallahi, they were the most beautiful days for me because I had the best Ramadan during COVID. Why? Because nobody's coming to the masjid. Everybody's praying at home. Everybody's breaking iftar with their families. Everybody's around you. Everybody's encouraging you. And the best part, you don't have to. We'll talk about that next time. You don't have to come for Taraweeh in the masjid, right? Where you find the most khushu', wherever you find the most khushu' and the connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's what you do in qiyam. So, praying Taraweeh at night alone, long Taraweeh, nobody's disturbing you. Wallahi, it was the best Ramadan I've ever had during COVID, wallah. I wish I could have that again, but not in those circumstances. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Okay, so the second meaning is he used to just avoid being with his wives during the night. Shadda mi'zarahu. For the last 10 nights. For the last 10 nights. Clear? Any questions? No? Am I shocking you, surprising you with some things I'm saying? Maybe? Okay. All right. Okay. This is the similar hadith. And then the next chapter, inshallah. Okay. Okay, Sha'ban. This is Sha'ban, isn't it? Okay. Alhamdulillah, we're in Sha'ban. I want to give you a little bit of preface about Sha'ban. There are a lot of narrations about the virtues of Sha'ban. Most of them are very, very weak. Okay, most of them are very, very, very weak. However, including Imam al-Nawawi and some of the other scholars, they considered this to be a month of blessings, and there are some other narrations that they used to propagate. Okay, it's not that they wanted, let me explain something critical and then we'll move on quickly. I don't want to dwell on it too much. Anything that is of virtue, anything that is good to do, that doesn't hurt you, that doesn't hurt. For example, praying extra nawafil, fasting extra, praying tahajjud every single night, reading a lot of Quran, anything that encourages you to do those things, giving more sadaqah and charity, anything that's good. They are called what? Fada'il, right? This book in Riyad al-Salihin, this chapter is what? Book of virtues, Kitab al-Fada'il. Anything that's a fadl, anything that is a virtue, good thing to do. Even a weak hadith, sometimes even very weak hadith, you can, the philosophy of some of the pious scholars, including Imam al-Nawawi, was, I'm not going to tell other people to follow this, but I want to use this hadith. It may be a statement of Rasulullah, so I'm just going to use this as an opportunity to do something good. Does that make sense? But I cannot use this hadith to mandate on other people, you should do this. I'm doing this, you should do it too. No, you just do it for yourself. For example, a lot of the virtues of the surahs of the Quran are all also very weak. But if you just you'd read that surah with that in mind, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me a reward. That's in this hadith, in this very weak hadith. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. It's encouraging you to do good things, right? So, in the early Islamic days, when hadiths were still being collected, the scholars used to ask, why are you narrating weak hadith? It's like, I just want to encourage people to do good things. Why are you making up hadith? We just want to encourage people to do good things. So that's how it kind of spread a little bit. Wallahu alam, I don't want to get into it, but then there's the opposite side. The other scholars like, no, you're lying against Rasulullah. He didn't say this. He didn't say this. This is very weak. I want to protect the words of Rasulullah. You can't just make stuff up, right? So there's a fine balance. Okay, I am about the fine balance, and obviously weak hadith are okay to narrate, as long as you tell other people they're weak hadith, but you cannot force other people to act on the weak hadith. Clear? Very weak hadith, stay away from them. Very weak hadith, stay away. They're like F grade hadith, okay? D or F grade hadith. How would you know? Ask people who know. Okay? Is this weak or is this very weak? Okay. So you'll hear lots of things. Alright. So some of the things, yes. It's for the scholars. It's for the scholars. Okay? It's for the scholars. So whenever you come across something, okay, so what I'm telling you is what you should know about Sha'ban. Anything that I'm not saying, just put it on the side. Clear? Right? This is why Riyad al-Salihin is here. Whatever is about Sha'ban here, just, that's it. Just draw the box around that. Clear? Okay. So I'll give you one very weak example. Not very weak, it's weak, but it has issues. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam one night went to, it was the night of Aisha radiallahu anha, and he went to Baqi al-Gharqad, and then he made some dua over there, and then when he came back, Rasulullah sallallahu Aisha radiallahu anha, she went looking for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She couldn't find him. Actually, she did find him. He was in Baqi. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked us, like, why were you looking for me? Were you afraid that I'm going to be spending not time with you, but with somebody else? At that time, he basically, there are other narrations where Rasulullah, she found Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in sujood saying special azkar, and she said that was the night of Sha'ban, the middle of Sha'ban, and all of those things. There's a whole bunch of those narrations. Okay, so we're not going to cover this. Now let's talk about, also there's another narration where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that your deeds are presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the night of the middle of Sha'ban. That's one virtue, and the other is he's encouraging people to fast the middle of the month, because he wants to make sure that when his deeds are presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is fasting. Okay. There's lots of I can share a whole list of 50, 60 hadith with you. I have a page. If you're interested, I can send it to you. You can read them all. But now let's read about what Imam an-Nawawi brings to the mix here. Okay? This is a different kind of a topic. So Sha'ban is right before Ramadan. What should we do? What should we do in Sha'ban? For example, if you had an exam coming up next month, what would you do this month? Study, prepare. If you had a marathon that you were going to run in next month, what are you going to do this month? Okay. So all of the hadith that's what you're supposed to do in Sha'ban. This is what we all should be doing in the month of Sha'ban. Okay. So this is about how much to do the practice. Okay, this is about how much to practice. So Imam an-Nawawi, the title of the section is Bab an-Nahi an taqaddama Ramadan bi sawmin ba'da nisf Sha'ban. Basically, you should not fast back to back at the start of Ramadan. So you can't continue to fast and then Ramadan hits and then you're fasting again. Take a break. Take a break between your preparation of fasting during Sha'ban and the start of Ramadan. You need to take a break. Does that confuse people? So don't fast a few days before Ramadan. Actually, some of the hadith says don't fast after the first half of Sha'ban. So after the 15th of Sha'ban, stop fasting. Okay? Or, let's look at it now. Okay? I just wanted to give you some context. So, Abu Hurairah narrates that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam قال لا يتقدمن أحدكم. He's very, very firm. And this is a muttafaq alayh hadith. Super authentic hadith, okay? One of the highest categories. Do not follow up, any one of you, Ramadan bisawmi yawmin aw yawmain, by 1 or 2 days. Leave a gap of 1 or 2 days before Ramadan starts. Don't fast those 2 days. إِلَّا أَنْ يَكُونَ رَجُلٌ, except, he said, except if you are a person كَانَ يَصُومُ صَوْمَهُ فَلْيَصُمْ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ. That, for example, let's say Ramadan starts on actually let me give you a simple example and then a Ramadan example, okay? Just so that it's clear to you. Should you say, oh, tomorrow, just because you feel like it, I have energy today, let me fast Jum'ah. Should you fast Jum'ah? No. Rasulullah said, do not single out Jum'ah for fasting. You shouldn't fast the day of Jum'ah. It's Yawm al-Eid. It's a day of Eid. It's a weekly Eid for Muslims. Okay? Alright. Also, for example, the actual day of Eid, either after Ramadan or Eid al-Adha, you're not supposed to fast on that day. You're not. Okay? We know that. Now, let's say you have a habit to fast every other day. You're one of those super pious people. You have a habit of fasting every other day. Now, while you're fasting every other day, that day you're fasting happens to be Jum'ah. Should you not fast? No. Rasulullah ﷺ now explains. He's giving you a concession. If you are a person that is fasting a particular day out of habit, صَوْمَ فَلْيَصُمْ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ, then go ahead and fast. Make sense? Now, if you're fasting every other day, and it's a day before Ramadan or 2 days before Ramadan, should you not fast? No. Rasulullah said, if that's part of your habit and practice, then do it. Is it clear? Yeah. But it needs to be not just a Sha'ban practice, it needs to be your weekly practice. Does that make sense? Not just a Sha'ban specific practice.
It has to be your ritual.
It has to be your ritual. Okay. Is that clear? Everybody? Okay. So, clearly, this is a muttafaq alayh hadith, a very authentic hadith. There needs to be a gap between Sha'ban and Ramadan. Let's look at the next one in Tirmidhi. Not as authentic, but a little bit, but it's still authentic. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا تصوموا قبل رمضان. Do not fast before Ramadan. صوموا لرؤيته وأفطروا لرؤيته. Okay, only fast between the 2 moons essentially. فإن حالت دونه غاية فأكملوا 30 يوما. Anyway, you complete the 30 days. We already looked at that. Yes. Now this is important. Abu Hurairah said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا بقي نصف من شعبان. When half of Sha'ban remains, meaning from 16th of Ramadan onward, I'm sorry, 16th of Sha'ban onward, إذا بقي نصف من شعبان فلا تصوموا. Then do not fast. Okay. So now we have two ahadith. One is saying leave a gap of at least a day or two. Here it's saying don't fast the second half of Ramadan. Okay, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually is encouraging us what? Don't go overboard. Okay, prepare, but enjoy your iftar. Enjoy your not fasting. Iftar meaning not fasting. Okay, and then you enjoy Ramadan. If you want, so if we need to prep for Ramadan, we better do it in the first 15 days of Sha'ban, ideally. I would not recommend you fast beyond 15 days, beyond the first half, okay? Just me in general. I would not recommend you do that. But if you can, I mean, there's no harm in it. It's okay. As long as you don't join your fast with Ramadan. Join your fast of Sha'ban with Ramadan. Clear? Okay, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. And we all should be doing that. We all should be practicing right now. Because otherwise, that first day of Ramadan is going to be extremely difficult. Even the second day, maybe even the third day, Tarawih is going to be extremely difficult. And basically the energy, you know, Ramadan, as Sheikh Nanawi says, Ramadan is a guest. Okay? It's going to come and then it's going to go. And you're not going to honor the guest. You need to honor the guest. You got to prepare for your guest's arrival. So let's do that in Sha'ban. I'm not as eloquent as Sheikh Nanawi. Okay. Next one. Oh, this is a nice one, inshallah. Talha bin Ubaidullah radiyallahu anh, he said that on the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, إِذَا رَأَى الْهِلَالِ, when you see the crescent, any crescent of any month, okay, this is generic. If you see the crescent of any month, Rasulullah sallallahu used to say, Allahumma ahlilhu alayna. Oh Allah, how do you translate this?
Make it come to us.
Yeah. Hilal, what does that word actually mean? Something that appears. Okay? Something that appears in the sky. That's the word. That's the actual meaning, I think, of the word.
Even Halla as a
Yeah.
as a guest.
Yeah, huh? Halla alayna, yeah. It appeared upon us. Something that just pops up, like in a nice way. Okay? I think you can translate it that. So that's why the hilal is called the hilal. Okay? Alright, so Allahumma ahlilhu alayna. Oh Allah, make it appear upon us in what condition? Bil yumni. Okay? Wal iman. And it has different words too. Have it appear upon us in security, I guess. Okay? Or with
ease.
With ease?
Yes.
Okay. With ease. Wal iman. While we have iman. Okay? Was salama, and safety. Wal islam. And while we are Muslims. Rabbi wa rabbuk Allah. My Lord and your Lord is Allah. So clearly Rasulullah ﷺ is actually saying this out loud to people. Okay, from this last statement, you can tell Rasulullah ﷺ is saying this out loud to people. Oh Allah, let this crescent bring safety and security and sanctity while we are in the state of Iman and a state of Islam. What does Islam mean? Submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean that we're Muslims, okay? It means you girls, you're in a state where you are content with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever state you might be under, difficult situation, you submit to the will of Allah and you say, oh Allah, whatever calamity you have put me in, I accept. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take this away from me and guide me to the right path. That means Islam. That's the meaning of Islam. Okay? That's why we're called Muslims. That's the meaning. If you're not doing that, you're really missing the point of being a Muslim. Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us those who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. So, he's saying that when the new moon comes, it's basically, we don't have a happy new year in Islam. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's a different discussion. What I want to say is, we celebrate the start of every month with a good dua. We start every day with a good dua. We start every evening with a good dua. We start every week with a good dua. We start everything with a good dua. We start every month with a good dua. Right? We start everything with saying something good. We meet somebody with a good dua. They greet us with a good dua. Islam is just full of celebrations. We don't just have annual Happy New Year's and Happy Valentine's Day. Right? Every day you're supposed to be good to your wives. Every day you're supposed to be good to your family. Sorry, did I miss something? Oh, I don't know. It went away? I don't know. Is it come back? Okay. So, send this dua to everybody? Yes. Okay. Please remind me, okay? Please remind me. So, what is the dua? Let's read it together, okay? Allahumma ahlilhu alayna bil yumni wal imani was salamati wal islami rabbi wa rabbuka Allah. Beautiful, right? So this is a dua. Okay? So now, why did Imam an-Nawawi bring this here in Riyad al-Salihin in this chapter? Because he's telling us, when you see the new moon of Ramadan, make this dua. And make this dua every month. It's not just a Ramadan only dua. Right? Because we are Ramadan Muslims, we only think about this dua at Ramadan or at Eid. Okay? But this is supposed to be every month. Every month. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make us Ramadan Muslims. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us everyday Muslims. Okay, Ameen. Next. We're almost done. Okay? Inshallah. There's a lot of content. I just want to overload you with all of these beautiful things, inshallah. Okay? And that's why you're here, inshallah. Okay. This is an important one. We're also going to cover this in fiqh, but I'm going to give the hadiths right now. Okay. The virtue of suhoor. The virtue of suhoor. Okay. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, قال Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, tasahharu. Absolutely do suhoor. Okay? فَإِنَّ فِي السُّحُورِ بَرَكَةً. Because suhoor brings a lot of barakah. Who doesn't want barakah? Who doesn't want barakah? And also, it prepares you for your fast during the day, right? You're not hungry, grouchy. You're going to be able to focus on the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have more energy to control yourself. If you're not doing suhoor, this is just me saying it, okay? Take it or leave it or throw it in the garbage, I don't care. But if you are not energizing yourself at the beginning of your fasting, then you are really open. You remember we talked about putting yourself in a situation of fitna? Right? You're putting yourself in a situation where you're going to be weak. You might either break your fast because you don't have the energy. You're going to be mean to people. You're going to sleep extra during the day because you're lacking energy. You're not doing zikr, etc., etc., etc. Right? Does that make sense? Do suhoor. Okay? If you miss suhoor, doesn't mean you can't fast. You can still fast, but do suhoor. Okay. Moving on quickly. I'm spending a lot of time on some of these, but I hope that's okay. Okay. Here, Zayd bin Thabit, he says that he along with Anas radiallahu anhu, they both did suhoor with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. أنهم تسحروا مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قاموا إلى الصلاة, and then they started to pray. What prayer? What prayer? Fajr. Yeah. قلت, I said, كم بينهما, meaning when you stopped eating and started to pray. So what are we talking about right now? Yes, imsak, which is also known as the start of Fajr. Okay? I will talk about that too, inshallah. Okay? So he's asking how, and I said, how much time was there in the middle? قدر 50 أو 60 يعني آية. Meaning it was 50 or 60 recitations of ayat of the Quran. Okay? There's other wordings here as well. So there was a little bit of gap. Okay. But does that mean you're supposed to leave only this much gap? No, that's not what it means. But, it means that there was a little bit of gap. Okay. Recommendation to each. Okay. So let's read this one. Here, Anas and there's the same two companions from a different chain. They're reporting something similar. Here they're saying 50 ayahs. Let's do this one. Okay, this is an interesting one. I didn't really plan to cover this, but I'll go ahead and tell you guys now. This is from Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma actually. قال كان لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مؤذنان. There were two mu'adhins for Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم. Who knew that? Did anybody know that? Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم had two mu'adhins. Yes. Okay, Bilal, and you heard Sheikh talk about Ibn Maktum yesterday. Okay, Sheikh Naif. Ibn Maktum, a blind Sahabi, one of the earliest converts, including Bilal radiallahu anhu. Both earlier converts, they used to make adhan for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It says al-a'ma, the blind. Okay, Ibn Maktum al-a'ma. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Okay, by the way, just very quickly, you know the surah Abasa wa Tawalla, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is rebuking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You frowned and you turned away from who? Yes, the blind man. And ja'ahu al-a'ma, when the blind man came to you, which blind man is this? This Ibn Maktum radiyallahu anhu. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam felt so bad after this, so bad. There's many narrations. Everybody used to honor Ibn Maktum because the Quran came talking about what did you do to Maktum? You frowned and you turned away. He didn't really frown or turn away. Wallahu alam. Okay. He just didn't pay him attention. He just looked at him and then he went. He started to do what he was doing. He was trying to convert other people.
He was in the middle of a conversation with someone.
Yes, with a big leader of Quraysh. Anyway, so the honor Ibn Maktum got, one of the honors, there are many honors. One of the honors is he became the muaddin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in addition to Bilal radiallahu anhu. Okay, now. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن بلالا يؤذن بليل فكلوا واشربوا حتى يؤذن ابن مكتوم. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said Bilal is making the adhan at night, but eat and drink until Ibn Maktoum makes the adhan. So the two adhans of Fajr, which was the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in all throughout Medina until he passed away, was Bilal used to make the adhan to get to wake people up. Okay? How long? Maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, Wallahu alam. Okay? And then when it was the actual time of Fajr, Ibn Maktoum, he was blind. He doesn't know when it's Fajr. He's being told by other people, go make the adhan now. Okay, so look at the honor of Ibn Maktoum. He is making the actual Fajr adhan, not the early pre-adhan. Okay? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, eat until Fajr time. Now, technical note. What is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying? Keep eating until the adhan of Fajr. Clear? Does that make sense? Okay. We'll talk about that inshallah next time. قال ولم يكن بينهما إلا أن ينزل هذا ويرقى هذا. So the time between the two things, which could mean a couple of things, either Bilal radiallahu anh done with his adhan and Maktoum climbing up to make his adhan, or stopping eating and drinking and then the adhan, wallahu alam. Everybody says it is Bilal coming down and Ibn Maktoum climbing up. So the time between them between the two adhans was just as long as it would take Bilal radiallahu anhu to come down the stairs and Ibn Maktum to climb up the stairs. Okay? Anyways, lots of detail here, lots of fiqh can be derived from this. I'm not going in that line, I'm just giving you these snippets of seerah so you guys can understand what's going on at that time. Okay? Alright. 5 more minutes, inshallah, we'll be done. عن عمرو بن العاص رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, he said, فصل ما بين صيامنا وصيام أهل الكتاب أكلة السحر. The difference between us and the fasting of the people of the book, the Jews, the Christians. What is the difference between our fasting and their fasting? We eat suhoor. That's what he said. That's what he said. Okay. I'll end here, but I want to share something really, really important, especially for the kids. Especially for the kids. So everybody pay attention, the kids especially, okay? Do you know what Lent is? L-E-N-T? Lent? Have you heard of Lent? Have you heard of Ash Wednesday, Palm, something Tuesday, Good Friday, Easter? Yeah, raise your hands. I want to see. What does all that mean? Let me explain. So I'm going to use this example since we're talking about Ramadan, and we're also in the period of Lent right now. I want you to understand what your Christian brothers and sisters are doing right now. Not all of them. So not all Christians celebrate Lent. Only some Christians celebrate Lent. And it's the Catholics, mostly Catholics. So Christianity, there are many, many, many Christianities, okay? You must have heard of Presbyterians and Lutherans and Baptists and whatnot. And so Catholics, they're not very common in the U.S. Catholics are not common in the U.S. They are very common in Europe. Okay? Okay, so the Catholics, they celebrate Lent. Why do they celebrate Lent? So, you remember the story of Isa alayhi salam? They believe that Isa alayhi salam was taken by the rulers of that time and the Romans, ordered by the Romans, the Jews of that time. He was taken and then hung on the cross, right? Okay. So by from the start of when he was taken to his, let's just say, him, according to their belief, his passing, according to Muslims, Isa alayhi salam didn't pass away, right? He was raised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, but according to them, Isa alayhi salam passed away. So that start of his entrance into, not entrance, but his capture until his passing, that is called Lent. Actually, 3 more days. Because they said that he died and then he was resurrected after the 3rd day. That 3rd day is called Easter. So that's the rising of the Christ. Everybody's following me? Yeah. Okay. So the start of it is called Ash Wednesday. Ash, and they put a cross with like literally ash on their foreheads. The Catholics do. And what that means, it's a mean of sadness. It's a symbol of sadness. Now our Jesus is going to be crucified, so that's a sadness. Anyway, and then he was tortured those 40 days, right? According to Muslims, we do believe somebody was tortured and somebody was hung on the cross. And whoever that person was, obviously that person was tortured really badly before being hung on the cross. And on the cross, that's torture as well, right? So that whole period, they call it Lent. That makes sense? What do they do in Lent? Sorry. 40 days. And I forgot to mention something. The day Jesus, according to them, died, that's called Good Friday. Good Friday. They call it Good Friday. Why do they call it Good Friday? Are they happy? Yes, they're happy because they believe Jesus died for their sins. So it's a Good Friday. Okay? That's a Good Friday. And then Jesus rises back up. That's Easter. Okay.
Easter comes from Ishtar.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm not talking, I'm just telling them what Lent is. Okay, so this whole period from Ash Wednesday to Easter is called Lent, 40 days. Okay, in 2024, I forget the exact formula for Easter, but in 2024, Easter is going to fall on March 31st. So by the way, while we're fasting Ramadan, the Catholics, at least the Catholics, they're celebrating Lent. So what do they do in Lent? Yeah, they do fasting, so they give stuff up. Everything that they give up, that changed over time, but right now they give something up. Like they'll say, I'm not gonna eat meat. I'm not gonna use bad words. I'm going to, I don't know, not drink orange juice. I'm not gonna have coffee. Just whatever, they just come up with something, and their church will make a recommendation for them. It's like, this is what you're supposed to do this day. They have, like, if you Google for Lent calendar, you will see like every single day there is a recommendation. Do this day, do this day, do this day. It's a whole recommendation calendar. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what Lent is. Hopefully that was interesting, informative. Hopefully, inshallah. Okay? And especially for the kids. So you respect them. I mean, you're like, oh, you're celebrating Lent, we're celebrating Ramadan. It starts a conversation. Alhamdulillah, it's a good thing. And, you respect them for giving something up, and then you talk about what you are giving up. What are we giving up? Not only food, water, no water. And then we are giving up what? All negativities inside of us. Not just using bad language, just everything. We're going to get rid of our anger. With others, we're going to be extra generous. We're going to be more charitable, etc., 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 right? And then you can then educate them about what Islam is. Okay? Any questions? Yes.
For the kids also, because you mentioned something for the kids. What about being addicted to video games?
Whenever you use the word addiction, that's not a good thing, right? Just anything in general.
So there are a lot of kids who are hooked on games. What would you say to them about video games?
So first of all, kids will be kids, but if they're a little bit older with a little bit of rational sense, then I think parents should encourage them and instill in them the desire to actually do the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and pray. And then every parenting styles are different. I'm not going to give you one parenting style that works for all kinds of children. Wallahi, I'm a father. Children are like box of chocolates. One, you just tell them shh and they'll be quiet. The other, you have to really beg them to be quiet, right? What can you do? So there's not one parenting style. So I'm not going to dictate that. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, assalamu alaikum, barakallahu feekum. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك واشهد ان لا اله الا انت واستغفرك واتوب اليك. بارك الله فيك.